Seems like nothing can touch Donald John Trump. First, on July 1st, the Supreme Court gave him virtual blanket immunity from prosecution. Then, less than a fortnight later, he dodged an assassin's bullet by an ear's breadth. And within days, Trump appointed Judge Aileen Cannon of the U.S. District Court in Fort Pierce, Florida, threw out the classified documents case against Trump on a technicality. But before we get into the backstory of the case, do subscribe to Bisbo America, where you get to see current events and animated stories. Lock her up, shouted Donald Trump supporters at Hillary Clinton during her 2016 presidential run, calling out her careless handling of confidential documents found lying in her private email server. But little did anyone know that life was going to come full circle for her tormentor, who would commit the same sin 6 years later. Soon after he took office in 2017, Trump had whimsically been, for some reason, storing scores of documents in big cardboard boxes, among which were hundreds of classified documents marked confidential, secret, and top secret, possessing critical information from defense and weapons capability of the United States to its nuclear programs to potential military attacks it could be vulnerable to. While he had every right to possess or view them while he was president, he lost those powers at midnight on January 20th, 2021 when his term ended.
My turn.
Probably miffed that he lost the re-election in a petulant act of a child denied, he called in his man Friday, Waltine, Nautas, a man who pledged complete and unquestioned loyalty to His Majesty, the King, Donald John Trump, to perform an act that could potentially jeopardize the integrity of America's national defense. Anything for you, sir. On the president's orders, Nautas and other staff moved Trump's collection of classified documents from the White House to Trump's residence in the fancy 20-acre Mara-A-Lago club in Florida, which boasts of 25 richly designed guest rooms and is especially known for its 27-hole golf course designed by the well-known Jim Fazio Jr. It also hosts weddings, movie premieres, and fundraisers drawing tens of thousands of guests. Nautas nonchalantly stacked the boxes on the stage of the white and gold ballroom, one of the two that Mara-A-Lago has, and they remained there as it is for the next 3 months, even as guests swayed to music, totally oblivious to the national treasures alongside them. Meanwhile, NARA, the agency responsible for archiving presidential records, found some entries missing, and emailed Trump around 3 months after he had left office, asking he return the 25-odd documents that he continued to possess post-presidency. Worried that if NARA officials made a visit to Mara-A-Lago, they would see the huge volumes of documents hidden in plain sight, so Nautas moved them to the club's business center. But because it had to be used by the club staff, 2 Trump employees again moved some boxes into a bathroom in the club's lake room, placing them next to the toilet and in the shower area. Meanwhile, NARA kept making repeated requests to Trump's lawyers without success, threatening to involve the Justice Department. So Trump decided to split his loot because, according to NARA, the missing documents were just a few dozen. Moving the bathroom boxes, shifting them to a storage room on the ground floor of the club, while the ones from the business center were sent to his summer residence in the Bedminster Club, the same location from where he gave an interview a few months later, revealing about
an upcoming attack on a particular country.
Iran, without naming it. In fact, he showed the interviewer the entire plan of the attack.
Well, this is secret information. As president, I could have declassified it, but now I can't.
In another meeting with his PAC representative a month later in August 2017, he displayed a classified map of another country.
The ongoing military operation isn't going very well here.
But simultaneously cautioned him.
I shouldn't be showing this to you, so don't come too close.
4 years back, Trump had rhetorically questioned,
how does the press get such classified information? You should be ashamed of yourself.
Now in Mara-A-Lago, intelligence that should have only been accessible by the Five Eyes countries were lying spewed on the floor after some boxes had fallen over, visible to anyone who cared to look. Eventually, in January 2022, as directed by Trump, Nautas took 15 boxes containing 197 classified documents out of the several boxes from Trump's residence and delivered them to NARA. But by now, NARA knew that Trump had many more documents which he hadn't returned. So, it informed the Justice Department and the FBI, who began a criminal investigation against Trump in April 2022. On May 11th, the grand jury sent a subpoena to Trump, ordering him to turn over all classified documents that he possessed. The case was serious now, but Trump still wasn't when he met his 2 attorneys, Evan Corcoran and Jennifer Little.
What if we don't respond to them at all, or tell them we don't have any documents?
But his attorneys knocked the seriousness of the situation into his head and ruled that out. Meanwhile, the same month on May 26th, when Nautas was interviewed as part of the investigation, he once again proved his loyalty to Trump by blatantly lying to the FBI.
My boss would protect me.
Are you aware of any boxes being brought to Trump's residence?
No?
Are you sure? We have evidence to the contrary. Were the documents kept safely?
I wish I could tell you, but I don't know. I honestly just don't know. Fortunately, the documents were safe, being unknowingly protected by none other than the U.S. Secret Service, whose duty it is to provide protection to former presidents and their properties. But Trump knew that to ease the pressure, he would have to give up some more documents. So he once again split his stash, bringing 60 boxes from Mara-A-Lago's storage room to his Bedminster residence. And just hours before one of his two attorneys were to arrive at Mara-A-Lago on the morning of June 1st to oversee the handover to Nara, 34 of those 60 boxes were brought back from his residence to the club's business center. Unaware that he himself was being fooled, the attorney reviewed the documents available at the club. In good faith, they had additionally called an independent third attorney to issue a certification. But the third attorney never even viewed the documents herself and carelessly stated,
"After a diligent search, all documents were found and they accompany this certification."
Meanwhile, hidden among his other stuff, Nautas loaded the remaining boxes from Trump's residence in an aircraft and sent them to his Bedminster summer residence. Just in time, because a few days later, believing that Trump still withheld many documents, on August 8th, the FBI raided Mara-A-Lago and seized another 102 classified documents marked as top secret, secret, and confidential from Trump's office and storage room. And crucially also seized CCTV camera records, which clearly showed the repeated movement of boxes in and out of Mara-A-Lago. A grand jury in Miami then filed an indictment against Trump and Nautas in June 2023 for willfully retaining national defense information, making Donald J. Trump the first ever former U.S. president to face criminal charges. It is likely quite normal for presidents and senior officials of every administration to forget to return papers. Documents were also recovered from Joe Biden's house that remained over after he finished his term as vice president in 2017. However, no charges were pressed against him as he cooperated in the 15-month-long investigation conducted by special counsel Robert Hur, and that he had simply forgotten to return them, with a taunt that resonated when he decided against seeking re-election.
A well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory.
But willfully not returning it is criminal, even though Trump only did it to hinder the next administration and not out of any nefarious purpose. Trump took the blow with his usual bluster.
I'm innocent, and we will prove this very, very soundly and very, very quickly.
His lawyers cited the decades-old Presidential Records Act to justify his acts, and urged Judge Aileen to
toss out the case,
hoping they had sufficient leverage over her, since Trump himself had appointed her to the chair in 2020. And it surely seemed so initially, as Judge Cannon entertained Trump's arguments pertaining to the Presidential Records Act. The 1978 Act makes it incumbent on outgoing presidents to return all their records to the National Archives, and was enacted after President Richard Nixon tried to destroy records relating to his presidential tenure upon his resignation in 1974. Cannon's initial lenience drew criticism from legal experts and rebuke from prosecutors.
The 1978 law has no relevance to the case.
So a month later, Cannon outrightly dismissed Trump's arguments to toss out the case before trial, but not before jumping back to square one to favor Trump and pausing two upcoming deadlines in the trial. Refusing to issue a gag order on Trump, raising concerns about infringing his right to free speech, despite the possibility of violence by Trump supporters on law enforcement officials named in public court filings. In the meanwhile, Trump's legal team began piling on long-shot arguments one after another. But after the Supreme Court ruling, Cannon tossed out the case, arguing that special counsel Jack Smith's appointment was unconstitutional.
He has not been appointed by the president and confirmed by the Senate.
The ruling is a huge setback for the prosecutors, but a big win for Trump at the start of his Republican National Convention. While the ruling will be appealed, Trump's strategy to delay the trial till election date worked splendidly. You will also find these sources listed in a video description section.